All right, welcome to Crime Chronicles. This is Eric Duhame. I'm here with Andy Hughes. This is just some short stories that come from our experience in law enforcement. Quite a bit, about 60 years plus combined there. Some may be exciting, some may not be exciting. Some are going to have lessons, some are just stories. So with that, Andy's got a good one for you today.
Yeah, this one it's not very exciting, but it's pretty elaborate. The whole story itself. Back in 2006, I was a night shift sergeant, Dothan PD, and it was a slow night. And on those slow nights, I usually got up on Highway 431, the U.S. highway that runs from Dothan up to Phoenix City, then connects with I-185 and Interstate 85 and on to Atlanta. So quite a bit of drug traffic and other kind of traffic coming through this highway. So I was up there working some interdiction. I clocked this van doing like 71 and a 55, I believe. Nothing too crazy, but right there in front of what's Dothan High School now, what used to be Northview High School when we had two high schools. I clocked this van. I turned around on the van, and as soon as when they got to Ross Clark Circle, they made a right on Ross Clark Circle, and right there I activated my lights. And the van, I believe, had a Washington state tag on it, state of Washington. So I approach the driver, get up to the driver. It's a Chinese male. He's got a Chinese female in the passenger seat with him. This guy speaks very little English. I get his driver's license from him. I get to talking with him, and both of them had Washington State driver's license. Get to talking to this guy, and I can tell something's not exactly kosher here to start with. My instincts are kicking in. Something's going on. So I run both of these individuals, and ended up both of them were wanted by ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, for an illegal overstay on their visas.
Let's qualify that too. ICE doesn't exist as ICE anymore, do they? That's
ICE still exists.
They're called by a different name.
It's called DHS, Homeland Security Investigations. Now I believe is what they go for. Previously they were INS, Immigration and Naturalization Service.
Yeah.
But and this story is going to be a story of failure of our federal government, which inhibited our ability on the local level to prosecute a case and to seize some assets. But anyway, so both of these individuals are wanted. So I had some certifications back then with U.S. Customs. I was cross-designated as a U.S. Customs agent, this kind of thing. And so anyway, I'd made some calls to some control centers with Customs and ICE, and they said, we want to put a hold on these individuals. So they actually issued holds on these individuals, want me to pick them up. So they were being arrested and detained. So I was calling a wrecker to come get the van. Well, I get to going through the van, and they've got about probably 25 or 30, not a huge amount, of some counterfeit DVDs, movies, in the back of the van. And I know they had been selling these counterfeit DVDs around. Mm-hmm. Well, I get to talking to the guy. I get some more documentation from him and the woman. Turns out that he had been to Atlanta to pick her up from the airport. She had done like a day and a half turnaround trip, Atlanta to New York City, back to Atlanta. I mean, like within a day and a half.
Wow.
So, I'm picking up indicators of some drug trafficking, some, moving some cash or something here.
Some illegal activity.
Something's going on, In addition, they're here in the United States illegally. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'm talking to this guy, and he relates to me an address here in Dothan on Crescent Drive where he's staying at. So he wants to talk to the guy that lives there to let him know where the van's going to be and that they were being arrested. So me being a nice guy, I said, well, okay, we'll call him. So I get the number from the guy. I call him and I said, hey, your buddy here is getting arrested. This is what they're getting arrested for. The van's going to be impounded. This is who's going to pick up the van, this, that, and the other.
Outside of the DVDs, was there anything else in the van that you found?
No, nothing. I mean, there
just
was no
the DVD.
And one thing about it, there was no luggage.
I was about to say no luggage.
No luggage for her in the van
Gotcha.
On this day and a half turnaround trip to New York City.
That's not strange at all.
No. So anyway, okay, I get a car there. Officer takes these two down to the city jail to book them with a hold for ICE. Mm-hmm. While waiting on the wrecker there, my longtime friend and my fellow sergeant on that shift there, Antonio Gonzalez, comes over, And I get to thinking, I'm like, okay, if these people are illegal, here illegally, maybe the guy he talked to on the phone here is illegal also.
Yep.
So Wrecker picks up the van. We hightail it over to Crescent Drive over off of 84 West. I go up there and just knock on the door. Guy answers the door, Chinese male, speaks perfect English. The guy's name is, his Chinese name was Hai Choi Lu. But I believe I think his American name was Ben. I think everybody called him Ben. He ran a Chinese restaurant here in Dothan. So I get his ID and I run him. Well, guess what?
He's wanted too.
He's overstayed a tourist visa also, like years ago when he was a teenager, still here in the United States. This guy, like I said, he speaks perfect English, reads English, all this kind of stuff. I run him through what they call the TEX system, Treasury Enforcement Communication System back then. Well, I get a hit on him for money laundering through U.S. Customs. And guess where this hit's out of?
Where?
New York City.
New York City.
Okay, so they come back and said, yeah, this guy, he's related to an address in New York City where some money laundering activity has been going on. So I call my U.S. Customs agent that I work with a lot. I said, hey, this is what I got. I said, I'm fixing to ask this guy for a consent search. He said, yeah, go ahead, that's fine. So I asked Hai Choi Lu, I said, would you consent to a search of your residence? And he's like, yeah, sure, man, no problem. So, I get the consent search form out. I explain it to him. He reads it. He signs it, everything. So we get to doing some searching. My first question to him was, do you have any large amounts of U.S. currency in the house? He said, well, I got $30,000 back here in my safe. I said, well, do you mind showing it to me? He goes, no. So I go back, he opens the safe. Sure enough, there's like $30,000 in the safe there in the house. And I asked him, I said, where did this cash come from? He said, well, it's just, deposits that I didn't have time to take by the bank, after we closed the restaurant. I said, which bank do you use? He told me which bank he used, which from his house, you could almost throw a rock and hit the branch
that he didn't have time.
He didn't have time to go make these deposits at.
Right.
So anyway, found some more cash in the sleeves of a jacket there in his bedroom. So we get that cash. I get looking on his key ring here, and we're fixing to carry this guy on down. Let me back up a minute. I forgot one part here. There's a 12 by 24 building behind the house in the backyard.
Okay.
So we go back there, open the door to this 12 by 24 building in the backyard, and it's nice, got carpet in it. There's 4 bunks, 4 little cots in there. I find another Chinese male and another Chinese female back there, and both of them have Washington State ID cards. I run those ID cards, nothing comes back whatsoever, which tells me right there that they were counterfeit.
Yeah.
So anyway, this whole thing's just all, it's just evolving into this, crazy story. Well, anyway, I'm going to take Hai Choi Lu and these other individuals are going to take them down. And it's getting close to, like daylight by now. Mm-hmm. So I take that cash. I take him. Somebody takes him to the city jail. I go down. I book the cash into evidence. And going back to the keys that we found, I asked him before we took him to jail, I said, what are these weird-looking keys here go to? He said, safety deposit boxes. I got one at this bank and one at this bank. I'm like, okay. So anyway, carry the guy down to the jail, book him and all. I run home, get a shower, get the kids to school, that kind of thing, come back. And, by this time I've been up for, many, many hours. I'm running on my reserve tank at that time. Get the guy back in there, and I talked back to the U.S. Attorney's office. They said, yeah, sure, ask him for a consent, if he would give consent for the safety deposit boxes. So we pulled the guy up in the CID conference room. I said, listen.
You were in patrol at the time.
Yeah, I was in patrol, yeah.
Did anybody with CID?
Yeah, I had somebody with CID with me. But, and previously, of course, I'd worked narcotics for years before this, working these types of cases. So anyway, the guy says, yeah, I'll give you consent, for these boxes. So he signs a consent search for each one of the boxes. Well, we go to one bank and open this box. It's full of cash. Go to the other bank, open that box. It's full of cash. So I ended up getting 2 other safety deposit boxes at those individual banks and my name, Dothan police officer, and then we transfer the cash over to those boxes and they lock them up there at the bank.
Right.
Until we can get a seizure order. Well,
How much money was in the boxes?
$243,000.
Total?
Yeah, total
From the two boxes?
The 30,000 that was in his
all
house,
total, all.
plus what was in
You're
the
looking
two
at almost
boxes.
$250,000.
No. It was total of 243,000.
Okay, so
all
all total $243,000.
Yeah, almost $250,000.
Wow.
So, man, I'm excited. I'm like, man, we're going to seize this money. It's a money laundering operation. We're going to be able to use this money to buy stuff for the PD. We're going to get cool training and
That's a big
all this
hit.
kind of stuff. I mean, that's a pretty large seizure there.
Yeah.
So I was very excited. So now it was up to ICE, their office up in D.C., to get us what they call the A file, is alien file.
Right.
Well, they failed. They just totally dropped the ball and didn't get us the A file so that we could file a seizure on the money. And we knew there was no doubt. I mean, we'd found multiple money orders, U.S. postal money orders in this guy's house also when we were searching. Money orders in $1,000 increments. I mean, he was structuring these money orders, sending money back to New York to circumvent the reporting requirement of $10,000 or more.
Right.
CTR, currency transaction reports, and so they were doing that to structure the money where they wouldn't get caught money laundering. Well, anyway, ICE failed to get us the A file. After about a week or so, his attorney was filing a bunch of stuff in federal court, and finally the U.S. Attorney's Office told me, said, "You got to give him back the money."
All $243,000.
Yep, you got to turn the money back over to him. So I ended up having to go back to the bank with him and his attorney, and then had to turn the money back over to him.
That was hard, wasn't it?
Oh, it was very hard to turn around and give this guy his money back, especially knowing that it was illicit money.
Yeah, because you've got you know this guy's doing illegal transactions.
Mm-hmm.
You know and he's probably a small cog in this really big wheel of what's going on.
Right. This was something national or international in nature.
Absolutely. So you've got this guy there's no telling how much money this guy's laundered.
Right.
And not to mention all the time that you put into this investigation for them to look at you and say, sorry, we messed up.
Yeah.
Give him the money back.
Just a failure of the federal government. And I tried to get the IRS to look at them on taxes. I tried to get the state revenue department to look at them on a tax case. I went to everybody trying to say, hey, let's, what can we do here to prosecute these individuals, or at least seize this illicit cash and put it to, good use by law enforcement.
Yeah.
And it was just a total failure on every level above our local.
Did they ever tell you why they didn't get you the file?
No, that was just some failure. That was some bureaucratic crap out of Washington, D.C. They just never would pull the file and send it. So anyway, ended up having to give this cash back. Ended up, ICE called back and said, just release them. We're not going to come get them. And it was after I was in office as sheriff. I think it was probably in 2008, maybe. ICE showed back up and picked them up then,
Oh, wow.
about 2.5 years after the fact.
That's crazy.
And actually deported them back to China.
You think that he was so easy, or what's the term I'm looking for here? You think he cooperated so freely because he realized that really there's nothing that the federal government's going to do to him? Or
Yeah, well, I just think he was, he didn't see anything as being illegal.
Really?
Money in itself is not illegal.
It's not illegal
to possess.
But when you're circumventing all the laws that we have here, as far as everything that taxes and all that, it becomes illegal.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt in my mind what they were doing. It's probably a larger drug.
I was about to say, the question is where does that money come from?
The money was coming, and it was being laundered through the restaurant, and then back to New York City somewhere. But I call that the Chinese connection. It was a very, very frustrating case to put a lot of time into and a lot of effort, and then actually nothing, zero came out of those efforts.
We don't win them all. That's for sure.
Yeah, the bigger the government, the more screwed up it is. I'm telling you.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.